So how do you actually do the setup? How do you do this approach? You've got to look neat. You've got to have a clean breath. There's nothing worse than a bad breath. If you're a smoker, chew an entire packet of chewing gum beforehand, or rather, just stop smoking. You want to put your hand out and introduce yourself. Surely that's the best way to crack the ice. Do you hand out your business card there and then? Well, almost, because let me share my experience. My name is a mouthful. And what makes it embarrassing is if we meet each other and I speak my name, which is unusual, and you didn't quite get it, I've now made you feel awkward. Because when you want to address me, you can't remember my name. It was a difficult name to pronounce. The second thing is, when you hand out the card, if your card's sensibly designed, it should be more than just your name. It should be a company at the back of the card or on the front of the card. It should ideally say what you do and who you serve. Ideally, your card should carry what I refer to as the lead-in, which we're going to learn about shortly. That way, immediately, you get a sense of who the person is that's just introduced themselves to you. Already, the ice gets broken. It's warming up. You don't want to invade personal space. Personal space is something that we don't understand. It differs from person to person. And it's rooted in the infancy of your childhood. It's something that's just too complicated to figure out. The last thing you want to do is break up a conversation between two people, because that's not really effective at all. You know, I'm already aggravated and irritated. And then finally, my advice is when you go to these events, as delicious as the snacks may be, select the one that's clean and neat and easy to pick up. Not the one that as you bite it and pull the wrap away, the onion slips out and hangs on your chin. So the breaking the ice part is actually quite easy. Just apply common sense. Think about how you'd like to be approached. Be open, be friendly, be warm. Okay, the lead-in is the single most difficult thing to get right. This is what sparks interest. This is the thing that gets the conversation to a starting point. Immediately from the lead-in, it's going to determine whether I'm interested in even having another sentence to share with you or not. It needs to be crisp, typically 20 seconds. It needs to be pertinent. In other words, it must be relevant. It's got to be understatedly energetic. There's nothing worse when someone comes up to you and says, I've got the most amazing thing, you've got to see this. Your enthusiasm has to be understated. Finally, don't use fancy jargon. I don't care about your acronyms in life. They're too complicated for me. You know, when we built that WASP, the number of acronyms in the mobile industry were just overwhelming. You don't know who that person is in front of you. You want to use simple language. You do not want to use language that puts them in an awkward or embarrassing position. Unless you go to an event, which is a technical event, and the likelihood is you're speaking with people who are similar to you in your industry, keep language simple. It must never be too long. Don't try and make 35 points in 20 seconds. Don't rush it. The lead-in is the single most difficult thing to create. Our leading has 5 building blocks to it. The first building block is who is your customer? Is your customer a person? In other words, are you a supplier to consumers? Or is it a business? Do you supply businesses? Depending on who that customer is, you want to write and give character to that customer. Identifying your customer is one of the single most difficult things to get right. And I'll go back to the reason why. When we start our businesses, yeah, anyone who can pay is a customer. Here's a story. So 13 years ago, Auric Business Incubator began. And I sat in a stationery cupboard with one of my co-founders, because that's the only office space we had available. We created a website saying we're going to create a business incubator. We didn't really know what it meant. The day the website went live, the phone rang. Because we're good at what we do. The search engine worked, the phone rang. My business partner picks up the phone and says, Auric Business Incubator, how can I help you? And I hear the voice speaking on the other side of the phone. And she says, no problem, sir. Let me put you through to the right division. I was also the photostat division. I was also the media division. I pick up the phone and said, Auric Business Incubator, how can I help you, sir? And I hear a voice on the other side of the phone. And it says, yeah. So tell me, do you work in Mpumalanga? Now, Karim, my business partner, has got a perfection complex. And she will never, ever do anything that she can't do perfectly. So, of course, she hears this and she says to me, yes, sir. Of course we work in Mpumalanga. You see, we had no money. How can I help you? And you've got an incubator. I said, yes, sir. He says, yeah, man. He says, I need 2 of them. I said, huh? He says, I need 2 incubators because I take eggs and build them into 1-week-old chicks and then supply the farmers around me. And I thought, no way, he's pulling my leg. So I asked a question, I asked another question. I thought it was a friend playing a joke on me, and I suddenly realized it was true. No problem, sir, you'll have the proposal tomorrow. Got onto the internet, learned about chicken incubators. We found a manufacturer, a steel fabricator, put the proposal forward, he accepted it, paid a deposit, now the pressure was on, and we shipped off 2 big incubators on low-bed trailers to Mpumalanga. That was the beginning of our business. You know how long it took us to really understand who our customer was? I would say no to nothing, because I had to pay for the rent of the stationery cupboard. And it set me off course. I didn't know if it was Mumbai or Hong Kong or Maputo. I know now. I know who my customer is. Single most difficult thing to get right. The next building block is what problem does your customer have? So in other words, is it a cost issue that you solve for them? Is it convenience? Is it quality? Is it certainty? If your customer doesn't have a problem, then you don't understand your customer. Because ultimately, at the end of the day, we buy things that we need and things that we want. And when you have a need and when you have a want, it's because it's solving a problem that I have. Because in that are the gems. If you get that right, remember the story of Evan when he spoke to the spa owner. He understood exactly what the problem was for that customer. Boy, did he understand it. Following on from that, what is your solution to that problem? Okay, second to last. Step 4. You've got to find a memorable fact that relates to the problem or the solution. Did you know that 94.6% of businesses started never get sold? Fact. Okay, the last part is you want to find an emotive hook. An emotive hook. So here's an emotive hook.